Matt to begin, and you can just come over and start it.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining everybody and coming on out today. I know a lot of familiar faces here. It's great to see everybody. I'm just going to kick things off a little bit here and let these guys introduce themselves. They can do it better than I can. So we can just go kind of left to right, or right to left from your perspective. Starting with you, Eyal, just 30-second intro.
Hi, my name's Eyal Grunstein. I'm running the user acquisition and growth team at TinyCo. I come from the world of web search, Yahoo, and Bing, and I've been at TinyCo for about 14 months, basically scaling the TinyCo user base to what it is today, which is tens of millions of users. We have free-to-play games on iOS, Android, and Kindle Fire. I believe over a dozen games in total, and we're very, very aggressive about user acquisition. So we spend a lot of money, and we vet out a lot of networks. So I probably know most of the tricks of the trade, and so, but I'm always learning, and it's great to be here.
Hi, my name is Rob Carroll. I'm the Director of Publishing for Tapjoy. Tapjoy is a mobile monetization and distribution platform for developers. We provide user acquisition for iOS, Android, and Windows 7 for folks that are interested in that. In my role with Tapjoy, I work with publishers to help optimize their games, help improve their monetization, improve their virality, and really give them suggestions on how to make the games better and more successful in the mobile space.
Hey, I'm Jussi Laakkonen. I'm the founder and CEO of Amplifier. Amplifier is the largest cross-promotion network on Facebook. We invented pretty much the term on Facebook. I'm a game developer gone bad, if you will. Used to do games. It turned out to be pretty freaking hard to find users, so I founded Amplifier to help myself, and then it took off and games sucked, so I kind of stuck with the game cross-promotion space. Recently launched a video game trailer network called Impact, where the idea is that banners are pretty freaking boring. Trailers are like games. They're rich and engaging. Watch a trailer, get a virtual item, maybe try out a game. We're also working some stuff for iOS, which we're going to be announcing in a few weeks, which will really rock your socks off, but I won't tell you anything about that yet. Sorry.
My name is Eric Lundberg. I'm the general manager of W3I's San Francisco office, helping mobile app developers monetize and acquire new users. I'm relatively new to mobile, but I've worked actually in online and social games for over 15 years, and just been incredibly impressed with the growth in mobile. I actually lived through and had the opportunity to work with a company called Pogo.com that was funded by Kleiner Perkins and sold to Electronic Arts during the .com 1.0 boom. And everybody thought, that was going to be a huge driver for the American economy. Just incredible to see, mobile 2 to 3 times stronger than that. Real businesses. Doesn't happen every day, but, occasionally we'll have an indie developer come to us, spend $50,000 on a user acquisition campaign, and end up making $1 million in revenue. So just incredible to see those kind of success stories.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. My name is Matt Tubergen again. I'll be moderating the panel today. I've got about 10 years experience in mobile, primarily in mobile gaming and mobile content, all the way from product management to business development to user acquisition and monetization as well. So currently supporting a company called TechSmith as well as a couple other organizations that I advise. So we'll kick things off, guys. Hopefully, probably 1 to 2 minutes potentially per answer, and we'll keep things rolling as soon as possible. If anybody has any questions throughout the panel, feel free just to raise your hands. We'll bring you up or just call you out. So guys, user acquisition costs are continually rising. There's a lot of different challenges in the space. Things are changing incredibly fast as far as user acquisition and user marketing goes, or mobile marketing goes. Let's just kind of define a few things here. From your perspective, what's the difference between user acquisition and actually app marketing?
I'll take the bait. User acquisition is fishing. It's good for the fisher, not so much for the fish. That's what it feels like quite often. So you're kind of you have this whole big drug net, and you're trying to get people in, and they're like your banners and all that stuff. So that's acquisition. You're actively out there whaling users. Now, marketing is more that's kind of direct response business, if you will. Marketing is creating a brand, thinking about your game in a way that's approachable for the user. Marketing doesn't start where the game is ready. Marketing starts when you start designing your game. Why is this game marketable? Why will people want to play it? What's the catch? Why do people care? That's marketing, and then the manifestations of that could be advertising. But marketing is more important than advertising.
Sounds good. And Eyal, I mean, you consider yourself in user acquisition. Do you also consider yourself in marketing? Are you on the marketing team?
Yeah, at TinyCo, we don't like to use the word marketing because, well, we feel it's a kind of soft connotation to it. But the way I view it, performance marketing is user acquisition. So it's very numbers driven. And, you know, we do this in hiring too. When we interview people for user acquisition roles, we're not looking for kind of the softer, touchy-feely skills. We're looking for like actual numbers. Can you deliver ROI? Do you know what the LTV of the user is, and is that worth the cost per acquisition and that kind of thing? So I view it as like a strictly numbers business and data-driven business. However, there are of course marketing themes associated with the role. Like for example, which creatives do you use? Which kind of theme are you going to use in the game that'll appeal to the broader demographic? But in general, yeah, it's much more of kind of a numbers-driven business.
Yeah, I would agree. The marketing, when I think of that, it's getting websites to review your app. Those banners, those featured page takeovers. It's just throwing the wide net out there and just seeing who's going to be interested in checking out your app. Whereas acquisition is actually going out there and reaching out to the user and saying, here, check this out.
And, just to kind of build off those points, user acquisition really is a direct marketing focus, so performance marketing, as we talked about. And, there is a shift going on in the industry. It used to be everyone just casted a very wide net, and it was all about charting, particularly on iOS. And get up in the charts, and you'd get free users being in the top 25. That still is a strategy, and people still pursue that strategy today. But we're seeing more and more folks in acquisition actually take more of a traditional direct marketing or traditional online marketing, where they're actually looking at the lifetime value they get from their users or their mobile app, and looking at specific campaigns and sources, and which source can bring them the highest lifetime value, and doing that analysis and spending more with those sources where they get that positive ROI. So there's definitely a shift going on.
Interesting. You said something about kind of paying for ranking, or paying to get up into the charts. I know, just to get it out there early, I know that there's some sort of, perceptions that there's some questionable marketing practices or paid user acquisition practices out there. Apple was recently banning some select publishers of apps that were quote unquote manipulating the ranking in iTunes by whether it be Chinese bots or whatever. It seems like this is a pretty big deal right now. What can app publishers, app developers do to kind of protect themselves against these things?
Know who you're buying from and how they're delivering. And if you cannot get transparency and clear answers, then don't buy. Simple as that. And that's how I think it was led to why, for example, companies like Chartboost have taken off substantially after this debacle, was that you could see exactly which game your ad will be appearing in. So total transparency would really contribute why Chartboost gets charting. Whereas a network play, which we three all kind of represent, is a little bit more vague. But even there, companies like Tapjoy, W3I, and us, we have a pretty clear definition of what we do, and we can be accountable for that. So, don't deal in back alleys, even though the temptation is high.
Got it.
Yeah, I think, for us, it really is about acquiring the users. It's not just acquiring numbers. So, everyone that installs an app through Tapjoy, it's all a real user. We're not doing those bot networks that some of the other folks out there have done. And if you do that, you really are putting your app at a lot of risk. If Apple or Google catches you using those networks, they will just pull you off the platform. And if you're able to get back into their good graces, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort and really put you at a huge disadvantage. So I think it's in your best interest to not try to get that advantage of using the bots, but go with someone that is able to validate and give you real users.
And so that if the deal is too good to be true, it typically is.
Yeah.
So, you really get what you pay for also, and I think this is what Eric said, is it's not about just getting a raw number of people in And it's about the quality of that, and the social space already went through that transition already 2 years ago. And I think it's companies like Fixu, Contagion, who's partnering with Tapjoy, and Flurries of the world will also kind of all targeting that you're buying, and you rebuy from channels that deliver a performance, and it's really then the CPI price doesn't matter as long as LTV is a little higher.
And just to echo that, I mean, I think working with reputable companies who are well-known in the industry, and this panel is represented, there's several out there. And just to echo the last comment, if you receive an email that says, hey, how would you like 1 million users at 5 cents a user from someone you've never heard of, it probably is too good to be true, and just be really wary of that. So.
Yeah, anyone that guarantees chart placement is probably lying.
Well, at the same time, do remember that platforms are shifting sands, especially with Apple. Tapjoy has seen this. Apple doesn't, there is no safe ground really. You have to be on top of your own game, master your acquisition plan, work with a number of partners, understand how this works. So none of these vendors, it can change. So you need to be vigilant, and you need to understand what's happening.
So it seems like there's certainly kind of a clear understanding that there's different value by the different traffic sources, or there's different types of value that users or publishers are able to acquire by traffic source. What's some of the best tools and best way to measure traffic performance?
Well, we have our own internal systems where we can look at the user base that's coming in from a particular source and match that to their ARPU and projected LTV. And most ad networks that we work with give us the level of transparency needed to do that. And we're constantly fighting a battle to get more transparency. And you mentioned Chartboost, which is a great example, that they actually give us publisher names of where they're running our apps, and we can look at which apps are not performing well and just cut those. So that's kind of the level of transparency that would make user acquisition more optimized and easier to scale. But it's still an evolving.
From a developer standpoint.
Yeah.
For a network standpoint, you're like, they're just going to cut us off and do direct deals. It's like, it's for a network, really the economics are a little bit different. So you're not always going to get that. But what you want from a network is understanding where the ads will be running. And even if you don't get a fuel name, maybe get an anon ID.
Yeah.
But this is always the same publisher. You just don't know which one.
Sure.
But it's you can track it and you can report it. Maybe you don't get direct transparency, but
And you asked about tools, and a couple of them were mentioned earlier. I mean, there are some good analytics providers out there on the high end of the space. So if someone mentioned Contagion, Swerve's another one that allows you to do some great analytics and A/B testing. W3I, and I think some of these companies also offer that type of testing. And again, it's early. We're starting to do that lifetime analysis, but it's not evolved anywhere to where it is in online, where you have behavioral targeting and day parting and geo-targeting. I mean, a few people are starting to do that, but I'd say it's more at the high level. I've heard of it on the country level. But, in online, people get down to the exact city and customize ads for city, and same thing with Google search. So, again, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for everyone in the room that, it's maybe the first inning. And if you're innovative and you work with innovative companies, there's really tremendous opportunities to grow your user base with profitable users who do convert. So.
Yeah. So for the three guys that are on the network side here, I mean, can you expose kind of how you guys are profiling users at this point? Is that something you'd be willing to share with us?
I'm happy to share. So on Facebook, we've been working across promotion, which means advertising games within games. We exchange traffic from one game to another because people play multiple games, and typically a publisher may have one successful game. So there it makes sense to ally if you're not Zynga. So over 2 years, we've anonymously tracked about 250 million unique players. We know what they've played. So when in our new product Impact, you have behavioral targeting. So if you want to find a poker player, if we ever see him play poker anonymously, you can find a poker player within Tetris. So we have behavioral targeting, which is actually more than you get from Facebook, because they don't let you target based app usage. I think companies like Flurry, I don't know if they actually do this, but I think they have the data, but I don't know if they do it. Rob, maybe you know.
Well, you can't, on mobile, it's a slightly different beast, because on Facebook you have access to a ton of demographic
No, you
information on
don't.
the user.
No, you don't. That's wrong. You don't access Facebook data. You get kicked out of the platform. You have
I'm
no.
sorry, I'm sorry,
Okay,
Facebook.
Yeah, on
Facebook
Facebook, yes.
advertising.
Facebook advertising.
Okay.
Networks don't do that.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, advertising from Facebook, you get very deep
Yes.
demographic. On mobile, all you really have access to is the location of the user, and if they are in your network, you know what other apps they've been playing.
Yeah.
So some folks like Tapjoy, we have some linking to allow the user to connect us to Facebook, so that gives us a little bit more deeper demographic information for those users that have chosen to share it with us. But for the most part, we know what apps they're playing, we know the type of apps they're playing, and you can kind of target based on the genres of the different games and shoot towards that.
On that, you could also probably use, like, if you were to go deeper, you could use, like, how often they use the application, how long they're retained, gives you ability to do that. Of course, then the publisher may get a little antsy if you're like, you're targeting my most valuable users with ads, like, what's with that? So you need to balance that a little bit, but you actually see quite a lot of usage data in an ad network if you really start mining it.
And, you know, just to reiterate too, mobile is a lot different than Facebook and online. And, you know, there's a shift going on now from UDID to potentially other things, OpenUDID, et cetera. So W3I has really been looking at that. I'm sure a lot of the other panelists are up here. And, you know, we are supporting and will support, you know, the new standards that emerge. But, you know, a lot of that does seem like it needs to be worked out, and different people have different ideas on different platforms. So it'll be great when there is kind of a more standard way of doing things like there is online.
Yeah. Eyal, how does this sound to you? I mean, is it from an app publisher perspective? Are these data points, are these things valuable to you? Are they spot on with the types of information you're looking for to acquire users, or is there something else out there that you're also looking for?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd want to go to an ad network and tell them, you know, I want to target only users that play games, right? And, you know, users that only play social games, or users that have paid in a game. But, you know, unfortunately, I don't have, I
Who wants
can't
to sell
even,
you paying users? Nobody.
like, even if I want to target age groups, I can't right now, and it's a shame. I mean, but yeah, I think we're waiting on UDIDs to be kind of figured out in iOS 6, and we're also waiting for kind of better targeting and profiling of users, like cookies in the web days, right? So yeah, from a publisher perspective or an ad buying perspective, it's extremely difficult to do targeting these days. So you have to cast a wide net and also like do as deep segmentation as you can, but you only really have a few dimensions. So it makes it really challenging these days.
You know, I've heard, you know, a lot of folks say, hey, listen, you know, every user's worth something. So, you know, Eyal, if you're looking to go and buy media from these guys, or, you know, from the network side, we say, hey, listen, we have valuable users that we want to send your way. You know, do you agree with that? Is every user worth something to a certain degree, and can you really put a price tag down onto an individual basis?
So I don't think users are psychotic. Okay. If users are psychotic, it would mean that whales are a demographic of users that whatever you put in front of them, they will open their wallet and give you $1,000. It just doesn't work like that. People are not crazy. People need a good match between, I love this game, I'm going to give you money. Some have more propensity, but it's not like an on and off. A whale will always spend. So everybody in their game has maybe 2 to 3% of paying users. There's probably 10 times that much of people that if they find the right thing, could monetize. And then there are people who can only be monetized with ads because they won't directly ever pay because they have a mental block and maybe their kids don't have money or whatever. So you have monetizing users, which every publisher is probably going to segment away from ads because they don't want to lose them. Then you have potentially monetizable users, which you need to find by providing a game that they would like. Video could do that. Some other way of putting that in front of them could do that by find the game that they like. And then for the rest of them, there is, you know, 70 billion thrown away in TV advertising right now in the United States because TV advertising, yeah, like it won't convert anymore.
Yeah, I think in the current mobile user acquisition market, I think every user is potentially worth something because we're not forcing any game onto a user. They always have to click on the ad, they have to click on the offer, they have to click on the install, go in and install it. So there is some level of, I'm interested in this app. I like the icon, I like the name, I like the description. And so you always have that opportunity to grab them. And then it's really up to you as a developer. What do you do to hook them? You've got that first 30 seconds, you've got that first minute after they install the app to keep them coming back. What do you do to get them excited, to get them engaged in the game, and to hopefully convert them first into a user and then beyond that into a paying user. Because nobody's going to pay in that first minute. So you've got to get them into the game and get them playing.
And, and I just would say, definitely every user is worth something. And also that there really seems to be too much of a focus right now just on in-app purchases. I mean, there's a lot of companies where that's their only revenue source. And it seems like a little bit of a backwards model that you try to make all your revenue from 2% of your users, or in some cases, just your whales who may be kind of a fraction of a percent. So, some of the folks up here are in the offers business as well. They help people monetize. W3I has an offer exchange where we take offers from leading offer exchanges throughout the world and feed those out. A lot of times we see an actual 30 to 50% increase in revenue from putting offers in an app. So just because someone doesn't buy in-app purchases, they could really take a lot of offers. The other thing you see people like Zynga talking about is maybe a user doesn't monetize well or at all. So they look at no ads, no offers, no in-app purchases, but they're highly viral. And they tell 10 people about the game. Well, that's actually really valuable to the developer as well, because you get that one user, you're going to get 10 users for free. So I think we'll maybe talk about that later, Facebook and stuff that you can track. The interesting thing, I think, about mobile that is very different than the web and social is a lot of times it's difficult to track that virality, because you actually are sitting there with your mobile phone, at a party or around the pool or whatever. Hey, check out this app, and you're never going to be able to track that word of mouth. But there are tools that help you do that.
So, Eyal, does that sound delicious to you, tracking viral users to the channel?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at user acquisition, I would like to acquire users who would spread virality. I don't agree that every user is valuable. I think only users that actually open the app and engage and become active users are of value, even if they don't monetize, right? You can show them ad impressions or whatever. But yeah, I think there is a lot of value in segmentation, and that's kind of the essence of user acquisition. I could put a price value on each country right now in iOS and each kind of device model and so forth. And ideally, if the networks, if it was a very symmetric kind of marketplace, then everything would flow and I'd pay 1 cent for this user and I'd get these users back and so forth. I think it's still an evolving model, but there's definitely a lot of optimization to be had.
That'd be great. 1 cent for a user, get a bunch back.
Does anybody have any questions at this point? Cool. Back to kind of what you said, Eric, the social space is evolving quite a bit and is really starting to impact user acquisition strategies for a lot of app companies. I mean, distribution, and discoverability on these app stores is hard enough. People are trying anything and everything to get out there, and social's playing a much bigger role in that. Would you guys, agree that a heavy emphasis and more and stronger focus on socials is a good thing? And what would you guys suggest?
So, as I started out comparing user acquisition into fishing, good for the fish or not so good for the fish. Really, you need to have both pieces, but fundamentally, the user that discovers you and wants to play you is going to be of higher value to you than somebody that you have to go and really spend a lot of money to acquire typically. Now, this doesn't always hold through, and there is users that you absolutely have to buy. But organic users are typically considered to be very valuable because they really want you. They want your application. They discovered you on their own volition. They are going to be probably more viral. They're going to stick along longer. They're more motivated. So right now, social sharing is somewhat a spam. I've lived through the social ages of Facebook and I have 3 chickens, somebody come and, grab the eggs. Who cares? So social sharing needs to evolve. We're working on that, so I cannot say much about that, but I think fundamentally sharing should become something that I really care about. And if I care about it, not just because the application is forcing and gating me with the number of friends, if I really like the game and really want to talk about it, I want to show it off, then the people who discover that and come through that with social recommendations, seeing what you like, those people are going to be very, very valuable, and that's going to be a very desirable channel. And I'm sure if Facebook wants to evolve that, everybody wants to evolve that, we have a take on that. But I think that's really something that's potentially the golden ticket when you look at OMG Pop or Song Pop and all these games that are really built around social. They will grow without us. They won't need us. And that's really what you want. You don't want to give me money. You don't want to give him money, you don't want to give him money, but you have to because your game is not the one out of a billion hit that magically grows. It just doesn't happen anymore. But that's what you need to aspire for, and then you augment that journey with paid.
So I actually disagree with you, not on the social side, we'll get back to that in a second, but on the value of the organic user. I think that's actually kind of a myth that a lot of people have out there, that organic users, oh my God, somebody found me from featured placement, or somebody found me from their friend's social stream. That user is the same as somebody that came in from a banner. They saw your app, they saw your icon, they saw a short description, and they saw that your friend was playing it. And they go and they download the app. You didn't have to pay for them, but you still have to engage them, just like any other user that you're bringing in there. So it's not a
You're in for a surprise in 2 weeks, man.
So I've actually got a case study on organic versus acquired users. It's in a pamphlet at our booth at the show. You're welcome to come down and check it out.
I will. Pamphlets sound good, like
Pamphlets,
propaganda. Awesome.
I've got probably a case study on 9 apps with over roughly over 1 million users that went through them. And we found that on average about 42% of the organic users stayed engaged with the app, and 35 to 37% of the acquired users, the incentivized users, stayed with the app. So it was only a 5-6% difference for the engagement of organic versus inorganic users. Now for the social side, I actually think that if an app is built to be social, that it definitely, you should put the hooks in there, you should definitely allow your users to advocate your game. But if your game really isn't social and doesn't have a reason to brag, if you just try to shoehorn Facebook in there and shoehorn, messaging like, hey, you just walked across the street, tell your friends, it's not going to work. Your users aren't going to send that messaging out. They're going to get annoyed that you keep putting it in their face. And there's so much friction with that Facebook login at this point on mobile. So actually getting someone to sign up with Facebook is still a somewhat difficult friction point. I know with the new OS, I think it's supposed to be simpler. It'll be faster on Apple. I don't know what Google will be doing that down the road, but right now it is a fairly high friction experience.
So just a few things to add to that. W3I has also done similar cohort analysis and seen that a lot of times paid users can actually be just as valuable as organic users, so do definitely agree with that. I don't know how many people were down at the VentureBeat, MobileBeat, GamesBeat conference a couple weeks ago in San Francisco, but Mark Pincus, CEO of Zynga, gave a great keynote. And, he said, we keep talking about this, but no one really listens. And he was just talking about how important social is, and obviously, Draw Something now is part of their family. He gave out some very interesting stats that, the other thing that's going to drive how much money you make in the app is how high your retention rate is, right? That's going to drive a much higher lifetime value. So he talked about where they've done some in-depth analysis on this, and if you can get someone to play with a friend during their first 30 days in a game like Draw Something, they're twice as likely to retain and play your game 30 days later. So just that viral factor. You do have Facebook being integrated in iOS 6 with native integration. And the other thing worth mentioning is there's some really innovative smaller companies out there doing some really innovative viral stuff. So one we came across recently was Hook Mobile, where you actually can have a list of friends to invite and tell whether they have an Android phone or an iOS phone and send them the right invite. So, agree that there's really tremendous opportunities with social as well.
That's interesting. Eyal, from your perspective, what do you think from a publisher side of things? Is the quality, first thing, the quality of user, whether paid or non-paid, would you agree with that, disagree with that?
I think, overall we found organic users are better in general. And then, it's tiered. You have organic, you have sustained, then you have incentivized, and that's kind of the tier we've seen. And with sustained, you have a varying amount of sources. Some are good, some are bad. Some, you think you're buying one thing, you get another thing. So we've seen it all, basically. But overall, combination. Right now, at this stage of the App Store, you can't really rely on one marketing tactic. Even if you get featured by Apple, I mean, that'll only last you for X amount of weeks, right? Even if your game is social, I mean, the social feed does get spam. People get sick of seeing the same social feed. Like you've seen Social Cam and Vidi. A few months back, they were at top of the charts, right? And now you don't really see them as high up in the top free charts. Like these things kind of saturate. So if you want to have a good long-term strategy for user acquisition, you have to do everything you can. Paid, cross-promotion, featuring, organic, social, everything. And you just have to time it right, and also make sure you're looking at the numbers as, how much are you spending versus how much ROI are you seeing and how much LTV are you seeing, so you don't spend much more than you'll ever recoup back.
And just one thing too, I think you'd agree with. I was playing some great games today, and you also have to have a great game, right? That's entertaining, and it's got a really nice tutorial that gets you in right away. And it's kind of funny, we talk about that in these panels all the time, whether it's on monetization or user acquisition, and it's all just about numbers, and there's a real creative element to making a great game. And if you don't have a great game, none of this is going to matter, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, and test, right? Also, don't just launch a game. Test it first, iterate, test, see if it works before spending a lot of money and time like launching it.
Launch should be a non-event. It's not an event. It's not like sending a rocket ship out and hoping for the best. Launch is not an event. Or you could say you're micro-launching every day. Like you de-emphasize the launch. It's a continuous process.
Yeah. Exactly.
So going back to the some of the social comments, and great point from Pincus as well. That's could have a nice best practice to potentially have. Any other best practices for social user acquisition strategies?
So social user acquisition. Now, I think you need to define this. Are you meaning advertising, or are you meaning designing social viral hooks into your game?
So specifically for driving new users to an application.
Through incentivizing or creating mechanics that will drive players to
Correct.
Invite their friends. Yeah. Well, I'll come back to my friend Eric. Make a damn good game. Like, what do you want to play with your friends? That's really fundamentally. Do I want to play a strategy game? Am I playing Name the Tune? I'm drawing with my friends. What do I want to play with my friends? If there's no, asynchronous multiplayer is a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity of playing together without being tied to the same place, same time, same, sync of playing. I can play with you without having to really invest too much of a planning ahead to that. That lightweight interaction that Draw Something or Sunk Pop or Words with Friends does is great for that kind of example. Then you could think of cooperative mechanics for games that are strategy-based, like we are defending together. I rely on you. If you don't come in, I'm gonna call you up. Like, Eric, you're not defending my town. Like, what's up with you? And then some games like Travian just got people crazy. They woke up at 3 a.m. to defend their town because the loop was like that. So design the game. So this gets repeated so many times, but virality or social hooks, monetization, game design, those are all now intertwined. You cannot pull them apart if you want to make a great game. They're all intertwined.
I think the concept of gifting, which started just on Facebook, is still really solid. So that idea of, asking your friends to send you something or encouraging people to send gifts to their friends. I like the idea of some level of gating of the mechanics of the game where you can play freely. To whatever, you never have to spend, you never have to invite your friends. But when you start tangenting, when you start getting the extra bonuses in the game, so let's say I'm progressing, I'm fighting, and I want to build a training academy, and I need 2 friends to build that training academy. Well, I don't need the academy to play, but I need to invite the friends to get that extra power, that extra boost in the game. And I think that's where developers have a real good opportunity to either monetize or be viral or do both. So you can say, spend $1 to build the academy, or get 2 of your friends to help you build it. And those little side tangent things that don't ruin the gameplay, but allow the people that want to be power users. That's a great way to put social mechanics in there without actually messing up the gameplay.
And I think that's a great answer for Rob, and he's looked at a lot of this. I would also say this is not a one-size-fits-all. Certain games will do better when you don't gate. And you let strangers play together. So you don't know what if you're asking for a cookbook from us, don't ask for a cookbook. Ask for ideas, but you have to interpret and design it for your own game, and design it for the game in mind, not really social by itself. It's really how is it inherent to the game.
Yeah.
Like, it could be better playing with strangers. Maybe it's a strip poker game. You know, I don't want to play with my mom, but, you know, if I'm flirting, you know, I could play with it, you know, with some nice girl who turns out to be a bearded guy eventually. You know, who knows? It could be entertaining.
You know, you asked
Who
about
knows?
you asked about best practices, and W3I actually has a group we call Games Task Force that's put together a playbook, like 40 pages of best practices, and totally agree with what you're saying. Is you know, it's not one size fits all. It varies by games, but you know, just another example. We talked about gating. Another thing you can do, and may not be the best example, but you know, let's just say it is some type of a medieval fighting game, and someone just lost a sword battle. Well, how about putting a you know, offer alert, featured offer pop up there and saying, hey, why don't you take this offer and get a better sword so you can win that battle? Those are the type of little things you can do that can have a tremendous impact on increasing your revenue, your ARPDAU, your lifetime value. So.
For certain games, like Kickstarter on Facebook is one of the prime examples of games that monetize incredibly well. And their sole monetization strategy is speed things up. You get hit by an enemy, it's a combat game, a strategy game, you get hit by an enemy, there is a time for you to rebuild, you can buy to go faster. And that's really pretty much everything they sell. And they monetize 20 times higher than anybody else on the freaking platform. Like crazy, it's just buying speed ups. Very simple monetization strategy, but it's so ingrained into a competitive mechanic in which you're getting totally wrecked. And you know what? I'm going to back at Rob because we disagree and Rob Stone is going to get it.
I got defenses. I got friends.
I know, you got friends. You got those friends who are defending you. Like, that's exactly like, okay, you know, maybe you cannot take me out unless, you know, Rob's got 3 generals of his own that come in with design it in. And, you know, something like that feels like a little bit glued on is going to feel glued on. If you lose to you, it's going to feel glued on to the user. And no disrupted to double the 3 monetization is important, but don't glue it on, really design it in. Like, you can pay or you can get an offer, but it's really part of the mechanic of the game. It's embedded in there. It's not just strap on it.
I totally agree that if you can embed social and monetization mechanics from the beginning, the game is just going to flow better, and those mechanics are going to work better for you.
And you know, there are games like, if you talk about strategy games, make it possible for somebody to spend a lot of money and help other people. You know, not just for themselves, but actually show off how awesome they are. And you know, Rob's poor guy, but I got a Mercedes, and I'm gonna really help Rob out, and you know, I'm gonna buy friends.
Well, they do that in China. The MMOs in China, you have that kind of tiered system where the whales are able to basically run a guild underneath them, and they spend $1,000 a month to outfit their guild. And we haven't really seen those kind of mechanics come into the Western games yet, but there's such opportunity there to, like you're saying, help your friends through your purchases.
That was all good points, guys. Any other questions? Coming up? Okay. Back to a couple points on retention. Retention being kind of a key strategy, quote unquote, for user acquisition. I've heard folks say, hey, listen, it's a lot more costly to acquire a new user versus retain an existing user. Is retention truly a user acquisition strategy? And if so, why, and what are things to consider?
It's still a work in progress. You know, I tried to sell people on retargeting existing users because it's so important to get them back. And people are like, la, 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 I want to get new users. I'm like, dude, you're stupid. But, people don't, everybody's trained to think about, have your budget of buying people. And that's your domain quite often, and you can look at the numbers, but you don't have a budget for retargeting and rebuying a user. And that's something that will emerge. It will really come through of that user, he got this far, I want to go after him, get back. Like everything, all the advertising on web is really much retargeting nowadays. You go to, any site that runs Google ads, they're going to be buying retargeting ads, and like it's going to follow you around on YouTube. You're watching a video, you get a tap sense. I checked this out, that company tap sense or something that's doing analytics, and it's like everywhere. It's like drives me crazy. But yeah, I definitely know what tap sense is now. So why are we doing it for games? I don't know. Maybe we're immature. But so I don't think we're there yet. And Eric probably can weigh on this, like how where web is with this.
Yeah. So I mean, to answer your question, retention is really important, and it is a numbers game. There's a creative element, like we talked about. It's got to be a great game, but you let's just say you pay $1 to acquire a user, your goal is to make $3 off them. That's your business goal. So how are you going to do that? You need to target your user acquisition so that you're bringing in users who are profitable, but also retain and play your game a long time. So if you're very smart at your user acquisition, you want to be targeting and tracking that. That's one of the third-party tools we talked about, are your own tool. Because, you know, it's pretty simple math. Someone comes on and, you know, if they generate 10 cents a day for you in average daily revenue, and they stay for, you know, if they play for 30 days straight, you know, you're going to make $3 off that user. And I'd love to kind of hear Eyal just talk a little bit about this, because I'm sure you guys track, you know, retention, and do you actually get down to a level where you track retention by source and those kind of things, or is that not happening yet? I mean, it'd be great.
No, we do that, and the challenge, you know, with paying for retargeting is, you know, we're already paying such a high price for a user to pay even more to get that user back, and with the prices that ad networks sometimes charge for retargeting, it just economically, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, there is definitely opportunity in retargeting and bringing users back. And also, you know, the way we think of user acquisition, you know, we're not just buying a user for a game, but we think of it as kind of buying a user into a family of games. And if you think of it that way, then, you know, retargeting and internal cross-promotion, all that stuff has a lot of value and inherent value. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to model that out. But at the end of the day, I'd love to test retargeting, but I'd probably want to put like different prices on it than what I'm seeing in the marketplace. Like,
So we do that today. So if a developer,
Cool.
if a developer has a user that they've acquired, they've spent 10 cents, they spent $1 or whatever, we can go in there and we can say, show that user another ad, you know, hey, your farm is old and decrepit, come back and refresh it. We can also push people to do an action within the game. So not just install it, but actually go in and finish the tutorial or get to level 3 or do a fight. You know, we can do all of those type of either action targeting or the retargeting of a user that's already in the game. I think the issue that developers tend to have with that is the volume you get through that tends to be lower. So you're not getting a lot of users, but you're getting users that have already installed your app. That whole friction of getting them to download, install, and open is already gone. They're just clicking there and going right back into the game again. And we have that service today. We'll talk.
So, Eyal, you mentioned something. You said, wow, you know, we were paying a lot to acquire a user. And you guys, I mean, you know, TinyCo has done a phenomenal job of their user acquisition out there. And you guys are pretty much everywhere at this point. You know, we've heard that, you know, as your user base grows and as you acquire more users, the cost to acquire users becomes, you know, higher over time. You know, as more users are acquired, the cost to acquire users is increased. Would you agree with that statement? Is it?
well, I mean, you know, as a company grows, we also, first of all, learn which sources work and don't work, and we also have a stronger network, which allows for better cross-promotion. So I wouldn't say necessarily the cost increases. I mean, it depends on a bunch of factors. Unfortunately, there's also the market effect of certain companies that kind of push up the prices irrationally, and that is a challenge as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, you can't claim that costs are rising as you have more apps. But there's also the market kind of aging effect, and right now, I mean, I would say it's inventory constrained. The market. There's more people buying than there are impressions out there. So.
I don't know if the cost of user acquisition has really risen that much. The cost is, give me a second. The cost is the volume that you want. You can still acquire users for 10 cents. You can acquire them for 25 cents. But how many users you get over a 24-hour period is going to be lower because you do have people that are bidding $1, $2, and they're getting a lot of users over that same period. But you can still bid for the same value of user, the same quality of user. It's just the amount of users that you're going to get over a period of time is lower. Is that better?
Any comments, rebuttals on that? Would you agree with that point? Casey?
I don't know, my business is more in Facebook, so I'll trust Rob to know what he's talking about.
Well, you know, we actually have seen costs go up quite a bit. So we've actually seen cost per install go up about 40% in the last 6 months. So what I think that means is it goes back to a lot of the things we were talking about is got to build a great game. You need to have those social hooks. You have to have good monetization hooks. But you also need to be innovative with your user acquisition metrics. So maybe you should target certain countries that are more profitable and that people aren't buying, super expensive traffic in. Maybe you can get great users who monetize really well at, 3 in the morning. So, just really try to innovate. If you're buying banners or interstitials, creative testing. That's something that people have done online for 15 years. Our company actually came out online, was built on that. There's very few companies out there in online or social or mobile that do a good job of optimization of their game, but also their marketing messages. I heard, I know Applefire's been very, very intertwined in the Facebook marketing space, but I heard someone say it's about a year or two old, but a year or two ago, Zynga was testing, they do A/B split testing for their Facebook ad creative on social, and they would test 98 new ads against their control till they would find 1 or 2 that perform better. So that's the level that the top companies in the space are doing. And how many companies out there do you know that are churning out 100 new ad creatives a day or a week and really going through that methodical process? And if you don't have to go to that extreme. I'm just using that as an example, but start with 2 or 3 things. And if you really innovate it, it can have a real multiplier effect on your business. And suddenly, you find the right creative or the right mix on your tutorial. You've been A/B testing, and your user acquisition cost goes down 30 or 40 or 50% in 2 or 3 days, and suddenly your business is profitable. So those are the type of it's almost blocking and tackling with optimization that most people, I think, don't do a good job of, and it really does damage their business.
I think one key takeaway, if you have anything from this, is that user acquisition is a key proficiency if you want to succeed as a company. If you want to be a standalone company, you need to own that, you need to invest into that, you need to find the people, you need to train and build the metrics and everything. It's not something you just go and buy ads. That's a death sentence. So you have everybody who's running a great company, you come up and offer 20% for AL. After this, maybe he'll join.
I think early on, I know Eric, I don't know what you guys do for new users coming into new customers coming to the platform. I know with Tapjoy we can help them get started. We can run the campaigns early on. But it really, you're right, it does fall to the company to eventually take that in-house and understand what's going on there for user acquisition and really be able to turn the dials themselves and grow and evolve and get somebody that can do that for themselves. And that whole role of a user acquisition specialist is something that really wasn't there 3 or 4 years ago, and now it's critical.
And just to reiterate on that, really good point. We do that, and we do have a real consultative approach where we work with customers on monetization and customer acquisition. I mean, it kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier too. Try to stay away from those companies who you don't know about and aren't going to really work with you, and find partners who really can help you and jump in and help you with campaigns and creative and that type of thing. So it makes a tremendous difference.
Okay, so it seems like some of the pay-for-placement strategies are long gone. That's no longer useful. But it seems like there's a lot of new opportunities out there to acquire users. What excites you most now that we're starting to wrap up on some of our time? And we'll take some questions here shortly too. But what excites you most?
I'm excited about things like video, which it's more engaging, and in general, I think it's a good format. I'm excited about full-screen interstitials. I'm excited about kind of just breaking the traditional model, like those baby banners, 300 by 50, and the small things that honestly, like, they could convert a whole lot better. And there's a lot of room for innovation in the ad space. Also, I'm excited about targeting, and I think in the next 3 years we'll probably have so much more depth of mobile targeting that'll actually, we can scale and we can be really, really aggressive about the type of users we want. So there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I've seen I agree with you on the video. I've worked with a lot of developers that are starting to make their own 30-second kind of sizzle trailers, like the traditional console games were doing, or have been doing for years. Now these mobile games are doing that. They spend $500 to $1,000 to make a really compelling video. And pretty much any good network out there right now is able to run that video and use that as an acquisition channel. And those users are actually great because you're showing them the game, you're getting them engaged, and when they go through and convert, they know what they're getting, and it's one step along the path of getting them to become an engaged and retained user right from the beginning.
So, I'm boring. I'm also very excited about video. I've even launched an ad network around video just last week called Impact on Facebook, which is Facebook's first game trailers network. If you're doing social games, you should use it. So video is definitely, it's really on Facebook, 25% is the average secondary retention. Imagine, you pay $2 to install, let's presume. However, only 1/4 come back the next day, which is typically so because the people see a small banner, a little bit of text, and have no clue whatsoever what they're gonna get. With a video that actually shows gameplay, they know what they're gonna get, and they're gonna stick around a whole lot longer. So video is a great format. Also, I'm gonna say this the third time, I don't want this business to be about fishing, I want it to be about discovery. So the whole thing where I think there's a lot of innovation being done, and we are also doing stuff, is moving away from the let's stuff in front of the user's face, and instead of think about what does the user really care about, and how do we enable him to share, to be social, and other people discover based on that. So I think there's a whole lot to be done about social discovery of games.
So, we work with a lot of very large companies, and we really value those partnerships, and they're great and show you some real innovation. But a few things that really excite myself, and I think W3I overall, is, I used the example at the beginning of having that person who comes in and spends a certain amount of money with you and gets a 20x return on that. We work with some small 2- and 3-person developers who make, $2 million a month in revenue. It's a pretty nice lifestyle for 2 or 3. There is that opportunity out there. Again,
You don't say like it.
So obviously that's not the norm, but there is that opportunity out there. It really is a unique time. Hopefully all of us or most of us in the room work in this industry. We really are fortunate, and it really is a unique time. I talked about my background in online. You used to have to buy server farms and bandwidth and all this. Now that's all in the cloud. You used to have to pay for all your acquisition. Companies like W3I actually have a $10 million developer fund that actually will help you with your user acquisition costs, where we can kind of help you find that. So there's really I think, never been a better time to be a game developer in mobile. And so working with those companies, helping them grow, is really exciting and a tremendous opportunity.
Sounds good. Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions from the audience today? Anything at all? Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming on out. We really appreciate it. And big thanks to our